Now, let's talk about energy. I spend a lot of time working on this in America and around the world. Changing the way we produce and consume energy in America, which of all the large countries in the world is second in the world in the capacity to generate electricity from wind and third in capacity to generate electricity from the sun, is the single thing we could do that would do more to modernize our economy and reclaim our global leadership and bring manufacturing back to America. Now, he voted for a bill called the American Clean Energy and Security Act. He introduced a bill to help small businesses become more energy efficient and get more investment in alternative energy. Now, what does that mean? His opponent said he didn't support that act. He said he hadn't read it, but he just had alternative energy. He thought it was frivolous, and he wasn't going to do that. They got a candidate running for senator in Nevada who called these jobs designer jobs. Well, I'm from Arkansas. I don't think anybody I know has ever had a designer job down there, but they do have four windmill assembly operations, sending windmills all across America because of this law that Heath voted for and the other incentives we've given. My friend Terry McAuliffe just went to China, listen to this, and bought outright 2 car manufacturing companies. One of them makes hybrid electric vehicles that are very efficient. The other one makes all-electric mini cars. He just sold 1,000 of those cars to Denmark. All the jobs, all the manufacturing jobs, well over 1,000, will be in Virginia and Mississippi, not in China anymore. In January of 2009, in January of 2009, the United States produced only 2% of the powerful batteries that are necessary to make good hybrid electric cars or all-electric cars. By 2014, your country will manufacture 40% of all the batteries in the world. I just got back from Nevada, reeling. They're like the second highest unemployment rate in America, total real estate collapse. They just got 4,600 jobs announced in 2 factories that actually belong to China. It's about time they put something over here. We put enough over there. Isn't it? Making 1,000 people making LED light bulbs and 1,000 people making wind turbines. So don't let anybody tell you that this is not important. If you want these jobs and you want America to reclaim its world leadership, you got a clear choice here. You don't have a choice. You got to vote for Heath Shuler because that's where the future is. Now, let's talk a little bit about financing these jobs. I've already said that he supports these small business supports. But there's something else you need to know. He voted for Wall Street reform. And the Wall Street reform bill did a number of things. The 3 things that are most important to you are it curbs credit card abuses and saves the average American credit card holder so much money that totally average people will save $5 billion a year. Second thing it does is make sure that you have full disclosure if you undertake mortgages and things like that, so that at least you know what you're getting into if you get yourself in trouble. The third, and by far the most important thing it does, is to make sure we are not going to have another financial collapse by monitoring the big banks. The community banks didn't cause this problem, the Wall Street banks did. It monitors them, and when they start getting too much debt for the cash they've got, it makes them put up more cash or stop making investments so that this won't happen. And if they sneak around, the bill absolutely bans future bailouts. It says we will never do this again. Next time, the stockholders and the executives have to eat the losses. That's what this bill does. Now, it's also important because they will now have to loan money and make money more the old-fashioned way. They'll have to finance new businesses, finance expansions, help take private companies public so they can hire more people and increase their production. This is a very big deal. His opponent says he would have opposed that bill, and the leaders of his party say the first thing they're going to do is repeal it if they get the majority in Congress. Now, they talk all about how they're the Tea Party. They hate the bailout. They're never going to have another bailout. If you repeal this bill, you will make future financial crises more likely and future bailouts more inevitable. So if you don't want another crisis and you don't want another bailout, you don't have any choice. You got to vote for Heath Shuler. Now, let's talk about the education problems. Think about the 3 million jobs. It would be a simple matter for the Labor Department to send to every governor in America once a month a list of every job in North Carolina that's been open for more than a month, and tailor a very inexpensive job training program where you could send people a check to train people just for those technical skills, and they could give it to the employer to do the training, they could give it to the local community college, they could give it to some qualified training program, and you'd get rid of those 3 million jobs in no time. And it would be very good for every small business in this crowd. Why? Because that way you'd start hiring people before their unemployment runs out, and they wouldn't be drawing down so much from the unemployment trust fund, which would lower the future obligations of every employer in North Carolina that pays into it. It's a good idea for a little bit of money. Do you have a choice here? Yeah, he has done everything from preschool and Head Start to encouraging more young people to go into teaching, to voting for these training and education programs. And the Republican budget calls for an immediate across-the-board cut in all federal funding for education and training of at least 25% and up to 50%. So if you want to train these 3 million people and you want the ones who live in North Carolina to go to work, you don't really have a choice. You have to vote for Heath Shuler. Now, it's the most important thing I'm going to say to the young people here. If you don't remember anything else, remember this. Heath voted for the most revolutionary bill to increase support for young people going to college and staying there since the GI Bill. It increases the Pell Grants. It gives a $2,500 tuition tax credit for families to help pay for tuition. But here's the most important thing. It changes the student loan program. It lowers the cost of all the student loans by having the Education Department set aside a loan reserve and just making the loans direct to, you name it, the University of North Carolina State, Elon College, any place you want, and they give the loans to qualified students. And you bypass paying all the middleman fees that are in the current system. But wait, here's the most important thing. And I did that, by the way, on a voluntary basis when I was president, so I can tell you what the young people are going to save. When I was president, young people saved $1,300 in repayment costs for every $10,000 they borrowed. That's real money. So that's the first thing he did. But the most important thing is this. Keep in mind, we're first in college growing, but ninth in college graduates. This bill says from now on, every single young person who ever takes out a student loan has the absolute right to pay that loan back as a small, fixed percentage of their income for up to 20 years, never more than 10%. And if they take public service, lower income jobs, if they become teachers or police officers or nurses, they can pay considerably less than that. You see what this means? No one ever has to drop out of college again. Ever. Ever. And we'll go back to first in the world again when we do this. This is a huge, huge deal. And because the default rate will go down and the costs go down, it actually cuts the debt by $60 billion over the next 10 years. It reduces the national debt. Okay. I didn't make this up. The leaders of the other parties say when they win the Congress, after they get done repealing Wall Street reform, they're going to repeal this. They're going to make it more expensive to go to college, harder to repay your loan, and add $60 billion to the debt. Why? Follow the money. The folks want their $60 billion back. It's unconscionable. This is huge. This will take us back to world leadership. We'll be number one again before you know it, when young people know that they never have to drop out because they're afraid they can't take on another loan or they can't pay back the loans they got. It's huge. So, if you want it, you don't have any choice. You got to vote for Heath. But I want to say something to every young person in this audience and every parent of a college student. It is estimated that the overall turnout in this election will be 25% lower than it was in the presidential election. That's fairly typical. But it is estimated that the turnout of young voters, people 25 and under, will go down 55%. If you are in range of my voice, and you are in school, or you are the parent of someone in school, and you have a student loan, you are committing malpractice with your own future if you do not vote in this election, and every single young person in America should know that and should vote.